Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how you can shoot and recreate this look from the cinematic reception scene for your future projects. So this is the first shot we're looking at and I feel this shot looks really good. And there's several reasons for that. When you shoot something like this in this commercial, set design and clothing is very important. This scene looks cool because of the color of the set, the color of this blazer, the color of this background, tones in the background, everything matches nicely. And all these things together also make his skin look very rich and full and just a nice image looking at it. But how did they achieve something like this? The lens choice, you have a little bit more focal length. This is not a 24. I would say this looks pretty much like a 35mm on an Alexa LF. So we get this nice full frame look. So you can get a similar look with your FX3 or Panasonic full frame camera, but this is a really cool full frame look what we have here. And also the lighting on this one is pretty easy. After you've done everything with your clothing, set design, this is a classical top light, but not just only a big source from over the head and shoot it down. No, you have a combination of two lights. You need a big source for ambience. As you can see, the light is hitting a little bit from the background on his shoulders, so there's definitely a light up there. But with even a bigger soft light, you wouldn't get as much detail on his face. So after they put this top light on, here is probably a light dome or something similar. Maybe it's a light dome mini even, to fill on these shadows. As you can see, there's another light, soft light, that's wrapping really nice across his face. And the reason I know this is a small source and not a big butterfly, something like that, is as you can see in his eyes, it's a really small specular. And you can always tell how they lit it most of the time on the specular on his eyes. And this one you can see there is something of a smaller source that's giving him this extra fill. The next thing you have to do is light the background. And as you can see on this image, we have a big vignette, and that's something you do in post. But as I always say, is lighting and post-processing really important today and work together. You don't have to bake the look completely in on location. It's always better, but for example, if I know, okay, I have a light on the background and I would just want to give it a little bit more texture and control, I know today I can say, I can do it myself, or I tell the colorist, he can magic mask or depth map the person out, because on a shot like this it's really easy. We have clearly a foreground and a background, and then in post he can put a power mask on the background, lift the exposure a little bit up, and do an opposite mask and turn the corners on the image down. So you have this really nice focus light on the person, and other people, the audience, they can't look somewhere else. The image is perfectly lit and composed that you have to look into the eyes of the person. So if you're comfortable with using software and DaVinci or other color grading softwares, you can save a lot of time on set and get even better images because you're not wasting time. The most important thing on set is don't waste time for little things that doesn't improve the image at all. Because a 3-hour work for your whole team is maybe for the colorist in 50-minute work. So always keep that in mind. Not can we fix it in post, but can we enhance it in post. So this scene is happening on the other side of the camera, and now we have a different setup. What I like about this frame is, think about how you frame your actor. You not always have to put then in this quarter of the image and they have to look in this side of the frame. They put her on the completely left side and let us see a little bit of the background. There are several reasons to do this. It's always an emotional choice. The person feels a lot more engaged to the person, so straightforward. They're going, okay, I'm going to talk to you. I came into your personal space, because most of the time, this side of the image is the personal space of the other person, but she invaded that side, and this camera angle gives us this feeling. Also, this gives us the opportunity to let something happen in the background. So we are still focused on her, but we have the feeling, something could be happening in the background, because that's a frame and setup that is not usual. Something that's always not usual will catch the eye of the audience. She was lit completely different. So we look on the highlights. Now that's clearly a butterfly. Probably when it's indoor, it will be a 6x6 butterfly that they put really close to her face. And the closer you get your source to your subject, the softer it gets, because the softness is not always calculated by the thickness of your butterfly. It also helps, but the difference in size between your light source and your actor makes the light softer or harder. And that's the reason when you want a really, really soft look, you need a big source and really getting as close as possible to your object. When you look at the image, we still has a lot of contrast on this side, but one light source that's really soft, it really wraps about her face. Here's no fill light at all. It's just this big source, really close, and we have this really nice fall off onto her other side of the face. But what they probably did is still put on her other side of the face. You just put a floppy, just open it and get as close as possible to get this side of the face a little bit darker to add a little bit of contrast. Here on this close-up, you can even see it better because you can clearly see the frame and the C-stands holding the frame. And that's it. Sometimes you just need a big source. That's the best thing on big productions who have a bigger crew, and you can use bigger lights, because setting up a butterfly in a small team really takes a lot of time and you move really slowly. That's the reason sometimes you don't get this extra bit of look that other productions has, because you cannot use these big sources on your sets. This is the next scene I want to talk about, and that's the product shot. Product shot is really difficult, but I like what they did here. First thing first is they mounted the camera on here, so we have a moving product shot. So we get something into the story and story elements. The camera's moving, so we got a lot more interesting stuff happening than just, okay, we're putting the burger on the table. And when you have the luck to have a food designer on set, he will do everything for you. You don't have to think about it. But a few tips I can give you is, of course, use fresh products, fresh salad, fresh tomatoes, but you would place the ingredients a little bit different. Your burger has to look like this. So you don't put something in the back, you pull all the ingredients to the front, so that almost everything falls out, but on camera it will look good. With this technique, you get this full, perfect burger look, because it just folds a little bit, it opens to the audience a little bit more. What they also did is, we have a little bit of color contrast. As you can see, we have a lot of warm tones in this production. We have this warm bread, this warm wood, this red clothes, but here a lot of cold specular highlights. They probably put a small RGB light, hard RGB light, and shoot it into the scene so that we get this little bit of color contrast to give the image a little more dynamic. That's a technique they use throughout the shoot. There are a lot of, like here in the scene, you can see that we have this warm, big key light. Maybe this looks more like an Astera. that fills in the shadows a little bit with a blue color. And talking about color contrast, I really like that scene what they did here. The simplest thing you can do is use solid colors like green, blue, yellow, and put something on it simple that will break the color. Here, this is nothing else as the orange teal look. And this is the most used lighting combination when you use light with RGB light, green and red. And with these techniques, you can really focus the audience on the subject. So, and what they also did a little bit better is it's a ground with texture. So that doesn't just used here as a blank blue area like here. That's the only shot I don't like because that looks like really bad. We set up a green screen and wanted to key it out later. So this green tone is meh. But here we can see in the ketchup also how they lit it. But it's just the ketchup standing here, big source of light from this side, really, really soft. Maybe there's another top light, but we don't see it to fill in more shadows. But yeah, when you have product shots and top shots, always light from the side. So you don't want to woof, put your light in front of it and just shoot on the tomato. Always light from the side because you're making your shot more flat with a top shot. So you have to put more contrast in this with very strong side light. And because this is a really big soft source, we still have a nice soft roll off. So I hope you really liked this video. My name is Marco Bagnoli. If you want to see more cinematic breakdowns, subscribe to the channel and we'll see you next time.